Welcome to Eye on Africa here on France 24. I'm Emma James. Coming up in this edition, clashes between police and protesters leave at least 4 dead in Cameroon. It's claimed officers opened fire on an anti-government demonstration by English-speaking minorities. Kenya's doctors' strike is costing lives. The president says at least 14 people have died because of a 4-day walkout by medical staff that's set to continue. And deliveries return in the Democratic Republic of Congo, or its capital at least. Postmen and women are back on the streets of Kinshasa, a sight some have never seen. Thanks for joining us. Police sources say at least 4 people have been killed after officers opened fire on demonstrators in the English-speaking northwest region of Cameroon. Protests have been taking place for the last month in the country's Anglophone regions. They claim they're neglected and marginalised by the largely French-speaking establishment. The latest clashes occurred in Cameroon's third largest city, Bamenda. For more on this, we can cross now to Zigoto Chaya. Zigoto, what more do we know about what happened in Bamenda?
Was in chaos this Thursday morning when the Prime Minister, Head of Government, and the Secretary General of the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement, the party of the government in power, was about to have a rally to request for calm from the common law lawyers and the Teachers Association, who have been on strike for the past 2 months. According to sources on the ground, the violence escalated because a host of young boys undressed and burnt the CPDM party uniform of an elderly man who was going to attend the rally. While there were serious confrontations with angry protesters and security forces, the hotel where the Prime Minister, Head of Government, and the Secretary General of the party in power were lodging was blocked by angry protesters. So far, the death toll, according to the national television, is 2. The Social Democratic Front, the main opposition party, talks of 4, and many wounded. But all these figures have not yet been confirmed officially.
The police have been justifying their actions today, talking about neutralising hostile targets. How is the police response to these protests being viewed across Cameroon?
Since the strike actions escalated in the 2 Anglophone regions of Cameroon, many people have been complaining of police brutality that has paralyzed those parts of the English-speaking regions. According to some security forces, they are facing a strong, organized and well-coordinated violence from angry protesters and will not allow those parts of the country to be destroyed. The protesters, on the other hand, are saying that they will not stop protesting until the government sees into their problems.
Zigoto Chaya, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Patients in Kenya are paying a deadly price for a strike by the country's doctors and nurses. President Uhuru Kenyatta says at least 14 people have died as a result of public hospitals being deserted by workers for the last 4 days. Unions are demanding a 300% pay rise for doctors and an increase of at least 25% for nurses. A deal they say was agreed back in 2013. The walkout could be extended to private clinics next week.
Refusing to call off the strike, hundreds of doctors staged a 4th consecutive day of protests in the streets of Nairobi. Public hospitals have been deserted since Monday in Kenya. The country's health professionals say they refuse to go back to work until their demands are met.
There is the issue of job promotion, allowances that we've been fighting for the last 4 years. So the government has just been tossing us up and down, but it reached a time where we had just to go to the streets.
Kenya's government agreed to raise doctors' salaries by around 40% on Wednesday, but the offer was rejected by union representatives. They're asking for a 300% pay increase, which they say was part of a 2013 collective agreement that has yet to be implemented.
It is very important for Kenyans to know that we don't hate going to work. We love our work, but they have come to a situation where we need to tell the government that we are serious this time.
With around 5,000 health professionals on strike, public hospitals are left unattended. At least 14 people are reported to have died due to lack of care since the protests started. Around 100 unsupervised mental health patients also escaped from a Nairobi psychiatric hospital on Monday. President Uhuru Kenyatta said Wednesday the government was ready to open dialogue with doctors and nurses. The same day, a judge threatened to jail medical union officials for disobeying a court order to call off the strike.
Ghana's Electoral Commission is calling for calm as the main contenders in the presidential election are ratcheting up tensions with claim and counterclaim. No clear favourite has emerged from provisional results, and the final figures aren't expected to be known until Friday. But the main opposition party's supporters are already celebrating. Its leader, Nana Akufo-Addo, says he's confident he's won and earlier called on the president to concede. The ruling party says those remarks are treasonable. Katerina Vitozzi has more from the Electoral Commission in Accra.
It has been an extremely tense day of waiting here in Ghana as people remain inside, glued to their television and radio sets, waiting for any sort of information that will show who their new president will be. In the early hours of Thursday morning, the New Patriotic Party, the party of the main opposition challenger, Nana Akufo-Addo, declared victory. They said that their candidate, Akufo-Addo, had a clear margin over the incumbent President John Mahama, and they called on Mahama and his party to concede. That they certainly did not. The NDC have launched a counterclaim saying that they are confident that they are cruising to victory. All these are unofficial results based on unofficial counts by both parties' polling agents. The Electoral Commission, meanwhile, the people that have the power, who wield those official results, say they are going for accuracy over speed. They are going to start the vote verification process and they will stop it once every vote has been checked and cross-checked and counter-checked. They don't want a repeat of 2012, where after they announced the results, they were contested by the opposition parties. They have said that they want their results to be the definitive one. They don't want any confusion after it's announced, so they're calling on political parties to slow down. They say the decision, the results, will be announced by them and them alone.
Burundi and Gabon have promised they will punish their UN peacekeepers suspected of sexual abuse in the Central African Republic if the cases are proven. 41 soldiers are facing accusations dating back to 2014 and 15 when they were serving as members of the Blue Helmets. A spokesperson for the Burundian army says there will be no impunity. The Gabonese defence minister has pledged to shed light on the affair but has called for the presumption of innocence to be respected. The Democratic Republic of Congo has long had a postal service that was virtually non-existent and not necessarily to be trusted. But now, after 30 years of turmoil where thefts were commonplace, letter carriers are returning to the streets of the capital at least. For some, spotting the postmen and women of Kinshasa will be a new and welcome experience, but the funding hasn't been secured to make it a national delivery service.
Waiting on the postman can be tedious. But here in Kinshasa, residents have managed to get by without a reliable postal system for 30 years.
I've heard my parents talk about it since I was a baby, but I've never received a letter. This is a first.
Trust in the postal service eroded in previous decades, as the workers themselves worked without pay and would only come to the sorting office to see which items were worth stealing.
There were inconsistencies at work. Often packages did not arrive, or letters went missing without a trace, and so customers didn't trust us.
The return to service was only possible after a deal was struck in which employees gave up their claims for more than 18 months' worth of back pay, instead settling for monthly salaries of several $100s. Congo's postal service is dependent on state funds that come from fees charged to telecoms operators for use of an undersea fibre optic cable. To secure growth, the postal service is hoping to sign deals with DR Congo's water and electricity companies.
We have restarted the machine, the delivery routes, the new agreements with carriers. We have renovated post offices everywhere. Even if the building is not yet prepared, the postman is already ready to take part in this new adventure.
Despite significant progress, the postal service is, for the time being, only able to handle posts between overseas destinations and Kinshasa, meaning those outside the capital still have to rely on friends and family for delivering their mail.
And that's it for this edition of Eye on Africa. Do stay tuned, plenty more still to come here on France 24.
Joyeux anniversaire, ça fait 10 ans que ça existe, eh bien, je vous souhaite bon courage et puis plein de choses à tout le monde.
I live in Ankara and I can tell you that your correspondent here in Ankara always tells the news exactly as it is.
Happy birthday, France 24.